Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Ask the Mayor edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, September 27th. I'm very pleased to welcome my colleagues, Gwyn Lurie, editor-in-chief of the Montecito Journal, Josh Molina, man of many hats and multi-platforms, and of course, welcome in the mayor, Randy Rowse. Mayor, thanks for taking the time to speak with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. Thanks for having me. I know that a lot of times there are probably anywhere between 8 and 12 people that didn't get my take, and I thought I would cover your entire listener base and be here this morning to
Well, now
those
that
folks up.
you've decamped to that rival show, who's stealing all my ideas, I name no names, Catherine. Okay, here we go. State Street on September 16th, the council did something or didn't do something. It had the entire package before it about State Street, thanks to our very impressive new city administrator, he said parenthetically, Kelly McAdoo. But it seemed like once again the bicycle jihad prevailed, Mayor. Can you just kind of run down exactly, real quickly, what was decided on the 16th, if anything?
That would be zero. But what we got was a presentation from now the Grand Paseo folks, because we've switched the nomenclature now.
Because
Kind of
you
like we
can't
did with the
walk
West
there.
Side
Yeah.
Paseo, which was actually a bike lane. And oh, what's that? Oh, it's a bike
Yeah,
lane.
that's Spanish for
So we're
bike lane.
we're we're good at we should be the military. We're so good at renaming things we don't want the public to really understand what we're doing. But so what it was a presentation of what staff has done with the volunteer efforts of Anthony Grumbine and his staff. And Anthony was a star in some of the charrettes we did earlier, way before COVID, about State Street. What do we do? And he's an amazing artist. So he drew these incredible renderings. My criticism isn't about the eventual plan. As a matter of fact, because of the way the State Street Advisory Committee was constructed with 3 council members, I'm not really supposed to opine publicly about the master plan because that would be a Brown Act violation. So all I've been caring about is the interim, what's going on now. And therein lies the argument. The argument is State Street wonderful now? No, it's not. And I'll say that declaratively. There's nothing wonderful going on there right now. There's a lot of nothing going on, and we're losing more and more tenants and gaining empty square footage as we speak. In the meantime, Gwyn, Coast Village Road is knocking it out of the park. They're doing really well. It's vital. We've actually lost some tenants to CVR, right? Must be the Montecito Journal's influence. But also Upper State Street's doing well. The waterfront came bouncing back. We're the only part of town that really hasn't bounced back. It isn't really a bicycle jihad per se, because bikes are kind of in the middle of the mix of the controversy. There's an anti-car bias, and I'm not the pro-car bias. The cars aren't even an issue for me. It's vitality, it's circulation, it's intentional planning, and it's engineering. And last but not least, financing. Not one dime of financing has been identified. So to her credit, Kelly McAdoo has been trying to break this logjam. We've got to have a 12-month plan to do something. Part of her proposal was to say, let's open up the street between Carrillo on up, which I see limited utility in, but okay, it's something. So Eric Freeman got into his Jackson Jefferson compromise, Hamilton
Yes,
Jefferson compromise
Alexander
thing.
Hamilton,
So,
Jefferson.
and I hope that none of that's on the midterm because I wasn't taking notes.
Talk
So
about delusions of grandeur.
just so and of course we agreed on absolutely zero, but everybody had a lot to say about nothing. And I kind of showed, I go, Kelly, I go, kind of welcome to Santa Barbara, welcome to this council. But Anthony asked me, he goes, what do you think about the plan? And I go, Anthony, your drawings as usual were outstanding and beautiful. The man really is a talented artist. I go, but that's not a plan. Those are renderings. There's no circulation. There's no engineering. We have no idea how flat and flexible works or what it costs per block, nor will we. So I don't see this. We're looking at De La Guerra Plaza that I was on the committee for 25 years ago. Still hasn't broken ground yet. We are going to finally break ground on the police station, which I was on that committee for a like amount of years ago as well. It takes a lot of time to do these things, and this will be the heaviest lift of all in
All
terms of
right,
money.
Josh, jump in here, Bruce.
Well, I think Randy summarized it pretty well. It was a lot of talk, but there was no vote, direction to the city staff. I was surprised. I thought Randy and Eric were going to be able to pull off 4 votes for at least opening up from the 900 block on. I think Jordan was sort of the surprise for me there. I don't know what's going on with that. But essentially, we're exactly where we were. It's a small victory for the people who don't want cars to come back because it means it's delayed for a little while. And I have to tell you, depending on what time you're on State Street, there's either a lot going on or nothing going on. And when there's organized events in the middle of the street, it's very vibrant, it's very busy. But I was down there working middle of the day a couple times this week, and there's not a lot going on. It's just like it's like empty, right? The street is empty, and there's some people on a bike, and there's some skateboarders and some dog walkers, and then there's the pedestrians. But the middle of the street is essentially unused, and if it is used, it's these bikers. And so, I think just as a practical matter, I think the people who are saying State Street's this vibrant economic place need to be
Oh, people are
on it.
dancing in the street.
Well, they are. I'm one of them on Wednesday nights because they have their country line dancing, but that's beside the point.
Boy, there's a piece of imagery I'm going to struggle
Well,
with.
I can't unsee that.
um, Organized activities work, but this idea that this is some vibrant hub all day on State Street just isn't really true. And so I just wonder if, even if you're pro bike, pro paseo, pro promenade, or whatever, I wonder if we're just wasting at least half the day to nothing. And that's when the
5 years of
retail
that.
shops need business. So I think the anti-car people need to be a little bit more compromising and understanding that not everything is a Thursday night, not everything's a downtown association Wednesday night event. Every other time, it seems to be struggling.
Well, what I'll say, Josh, is that it's really a party in a vacant lot can be really fun and festive, but after the party's over, it's a vacant lot all over again.
Yeah.
That's what we have. St. Louis, on the other hand, will close down streets periodically for events, and then they'll open them back up again.
I have a question though, bikes aside for a moment, because I would argue, given that Montecito does so well in this area, so clearly I'm an expert. I have a serious question. Bikes aside, what do you think that the whole kind of complicated permitting process and I've heard so many business owners say it is so difficult to do business with the city and to get anything done, and they're carrying the rents for so long before they can get the permits approved to do anything, that it just doesn't pencil out. So I don't, how much does that play into this in terms of attracting businesses that people want to go to? Because you could never park on State Street. That was never an option for people, right?
Well, yeah, it's not about parking on State Street. It's about circulation and a plan. But a couple things to your point, Gwen. Number one, you're exactly right. And we are trying to address that. We've actually created an ombudsman position in the building department to deal strictly with TIs, tenant improvements. So when somebody comes in to expedite that process, we recognize we're a roadblock in a lot of ways. But the irony to me is what we've allowed to go on State Street without permitting or engineering or whatever. And it's been the Wild West. So actually, Nick, I'm sorry he's not here because he actually had
He's a keyboard warrior. He's afraid to show up.
But he also says he actually attributed a quote to me, which I never said, but I still love it. And it's like, Randy feels like he went to the county fair, had a great time. Then he woke up on Monday and found out he lived there. And I think that's the way I feel about State Street. It's like the morning after the party every day.
Oh, I thought
nobody out there.
I thought he meant that when you return to council, but anyway.
Oh yeah, no, that's a party all of its own. But Gwen, you're exactly right. And a big part of our one of my goals, and I know community development, Eli is trying to move this along as well, is to reform that process so at least we have certainty. Because you're right, people will sign a lease and then they'll sit there in limbo In the meantime, we've allowed these things to go on without engineering, without plans, without oversight. And I don't blame the restaurants and whatnot that have the parklets. I mean, why would they put money into something they're not sure what's going to happen next week?
Yeah.
So this is the crazy thing. I mean, we've really gone through the looking glass on this, and I've expressed my exasperation in more than one way, and here we are, and we haven't moved the nickel at all.
I want to ask you something. Alejandra Gutierrez, your colleague who's running for reelection, I thought made a very good point. We're all, people kept talking about the city wants this and the community wants that and that. And then she looked at it, she said, this is not the community. This is, these are people who can come to City Hall in the middle of the day on a Tuesday afternoon. Do you think she's onto something there?
No, I know she's onto something because I've canvassed all the major property owners and I'm meeting with them individually. And yeah, they were invited to go to the town halls and whatnot. But I tell you strong towns and whatnot. I mean, it's Sullivan Israel. I think he's a grad student up in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. But he's run a brilliant public campaign, and he's got all these people writing in and doing this and that. But it's where there's a utopian ideal, this car-free, bucolic downtown, and all of a sudden it slams headlong into reality. And oftentimes utopian ideals do that. Back in my in the Pleistocene, when I was an environmental studies major, we had the exact same conversation, and car free this and car free that, without thinking through what circulation economics means to business. We've got a parking system. There's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets that are in the red right now, and they were never in the red forever, and now they are. We've lost. We're going to lose Restoration Hardware. We've lost a couple of ancillary businesses like Janine's left Figueroa. We're going to lose the Palace Cafe. We lost Trattoria Victoria.
CVS.
Yeah, we're going to lose World Market. I understand.
What?
CVS is going out.
We're losing World Market?
That's
Is that a
what I've
fact?
heard. Yeah.
Oh, that can't happen.
Well, the thing is, and people go, well, that CVS is closing stores all over the place. I go, yes, they are, except they're not closing their store on Coast Village Road. They're not closing the store on the Mesa that I'm aware of. I go, the downtown has become a place where locals have just said, show me the hand. I'm not going down there for whatever reason. I mean, I'm there every day. I walk that street every day and most nights, just because I like being by myself. I don't know. No, it's frustrating because I've been downtown. I was across the street for almost 40 years. So,
Well,
Hey,
it's like you have to have places people really want to go, and so, Santa Barbara has to be able to attract more new, interesting businesses.
right,
You
but
lost
here's the thing, Gwen, I'm sorry to
renowned
interrupt you, but I've talked to a lot of retailers around, and I also talked to your new bestie, Rick Caruso, about this as well when I had a meeting with him. And he was saying this, he just goes, I have the same stores that you do. I have an Apple store, I have a CVS and blah, blah, but he also has a very comfortable, clean, inviting environment to be in. Okay, so yeah, that's a rarefied closed system as a private property. I get all that. But State Street is still the number one visited asset according to the Visit Santa Barbara, even over and above the pier that people come and see. They do the cell phone tracking data. So you go look out on weekends and the sidewalks are full. But when I see a lot of national tenants will come to me and they'll say, what's going to happen on State Street? I go, I really don't know. They go, well, number one, we don't like closed streets because of the track record for closed streets. And number two is we need certainty. We don't know what's going on. I mean, over and above the permit process.
I mean, Rick Caruso he doesn't have CVS here. He has CVS in LA in his property.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But I mean, here he also has Gucci or whatever, Brunello Cucinelli and Bottega Veneta and Goop. And by the way, I don't think most normal people can afford to shop at those stores. I don't know.
Well, your readers certainly can, Gwen.
Yeah,
I don't know. Have you gone shopping for a purse lately?
But I tell you what, Gwen, what he does have though is if you went to the economic forecast, he tracks attendance, and they're surpassed Disneyland in attendance. And I don't get that, but I've been to his different like the Grove and the Americana and all that. And man, those places are vibrant and they're happening. And they've got a
Yeah,
combination. They've got
we're
like,
getting a little off track here with Rick Caruso because I want to get.
yeah. So, but I'm just saying is the thing, the advice was this, is like, we basically, what I'm saying, just for right now, get it open, clean it up, light it better. I want to get rid of all the bushy
Well, I mean,
trees and move on.
to Kelly's credit, I mean, there are a number of short-term things that she's got on that list, correct? Including lighting, and including some separation, between, bikes and pedestrians, no? I mean,
Yes.
what does short-term mean there, by the way?
Well, what is short? Great question. When Paul Casey declared this street closed on the advice of council in 2020, they also thought they were going to be back open by Labor Day, so of 2020. And so now COVID obviously went on a little bit longer, but look what
But no, that's a political decision to have kept it closed this long.
it's
That,
very much a political decision, and it's happening right up there in the dais with my colleagues. And I would like anyone to explain to me why this interim process, the way it is necessary. This has nothing to do with the master plan. This can be reopened and have the master plan go apace. I mean, it's not, it doesn't preclude anything.
all right, I got just one more point here. Among all of the great oratory during this discussion, of course, was a District 3 council member, Oscar Gutierrez, proposing that traffic bumps be put down with super glue, which certainly I'm sure recommended him for reelection to his constituents. But short of him losing to Tony Becerra, do you see any hope of a fourth vote here for return to sanity on State Street?
Well, I mean, at one point in time, Oscar was touting opening State Street, and then he changed his mind. I don't know where all this stuff comes from. My question is, why are we trying so hard to make this stay closed? I mean, the efforts we're going through, the money we've gone through, we finally had to
Why? Yeah, that's a great, but I don't understand it either.
no, I don't. We had to compromise on the 1,200 block for the Granada because they couldn't get their senior subscribers to the Granada. I mean, disabled and ambulatory people with ambulatory challenges and all that. State Street is no longer
Yeah.
their turf.
They're not among those dancing in the street. All right, anybody got anything else on State Street before we switch gears here? Josh, you got?
Well, I think, the answer to Randy's question is, he's going up against a formidable adversary in Councilmember Kristen Sneddon. And, behind the scenes, what's really playing out here is Sneddon going to challenge Randy for mayor? Sneddon is very much championing the keep State Street closed to cars and let's never go back in any way. And so there's that going on. There's also this thing that the people who want State Street open again are conservatives. They're the right, the council's majority Democratic Party. So that's another dynamic here. It's not really about public works and infrastructure. It's really about
It's a culture war, is what
the
you're
left
saying.
having the power over State Street and this idea that climate, obviously getting people out of cars, housing downtown. I mean, that's what's really caught up in all of this. And Sneddon is the most formidable sort of foil to Randy's plan. So he's going to have to figure something out here.
Can I give one piece of unsolicited advice? Do something.
Why? Thank you.
That's what Kelly's
It's
trying
like
to do.
it doesn't matter. Like, just shift the paradigm. Get off of the closed or open thing and just start doing other things. And eventually that issue will work itself out. That's
We
what
is
can't
there
decide
no-
what the other things are. I mean, you watch us up there, and we've gone back and forth. They had a interim subcommittee. They brought nothing to the table. We struggled over the 1300 block up where the Arlington is. We struggled with Victoria, which we finally got back open. We struggled with the right-of-way parklets, which was the K-railification of
Oh, that's
Santa
beautiful.
Barbara.
Yeah, that's a
We
good
got a
one.
Caltrans themed downtown now. We got K-rails everywhere. I
But is
gotta
there
tell
a
you-
way for obviously because of the Brown Act in front of the public, but is there a way for the council to roll up its sleeves and say, we're going to have to find a compromise? Let's all agree on a compromise that's going to allow all of these parties to be seen in this solution. So
That's exactly what we've been trying to do. And Eric Friedman and I have been chipping away at that for a long time, and we've gotten nowhere. You
Well,
saw that in the last meeting.
You're obviously Thomas Jefferson in that formulation, and Eric is Hamilton. So you just need James Madison. Maybe Jordan can do it.
Don't forget Aaron Burr. He's got to be in there somewhere.
All right, let me ask you about the other thing that was discussed. Josh had a piece this week, sort of an update on the homeless situation. And if his numbers are correct and my math is correct, we spent $7 million on the issue last year for only a 25% increase in homeless people. So that's working out real well too.
Well, let me go back on that number just a little bit, because as part of the biggest column in that number was the sheltered part, which includes, of course, the Dignity Moves, which is a bridge housing thing, includes PATH, includes other things like that. We have taken a lot of folks from State Street and got them into services vis-a-vis that Faro Center over on Chapala, which we just got open, and that's made an improvement down there. Now, what you see out there now are the really visible homeless, the ones that are super service resistant, guys that we all know their first names. They've been out there for decades, and they're not going anywhere until, someone changes the laws or the facilities. So we've made a little progress, but California in general, 25 or $26 billion, and all it's doing is
27 billion.
27 for 168,000 identified individuals, and that number's only going up.
Oh, it's going up, yeah.
So we have obviously done the anti-Einstein thing. We've kept doing the same things, and we're getting the same results. So we're actually, because we got Barbara Anderson as our kind of our czar, who's overseeing these things with CityNet and with this SB Act and all that, we've actually made some improvements, but they're incremental and they're small, and each client takes a lot of effort and a lot of manpower to get them where they need to be and to go. But in the meantime, we've been ahead of the game on the encampment clearance for a long time. We've cooperated with Caltrans, also I think in Montecito as well, where if you've seen the side, the sides of the freeway have gotten cleared, which has been a huge improvement. Fences have gone up. So we've made some improvements, but there's never going to be a quote unquote solution. We're not doing anything with prevention, which we talked about the other day. And of course, prevention to me and prevention to my colleagues means two different things. But
Yeah.
I live in a world of substance abuse prevention, and nobody else sees that as part of the formula. So.
Yeah. Hey, Gwyn, is that true? Has there been a decrease in the in homeless encampments and so on in Montecito? Have you been witness to that?
I feel like there have.
There has.
I feel like there have. I don't know. I can't speak formally to that, and I'm happy to look into that and find the answer to that question. But I personally
Well,
feel
that's
like
what I meant. That's what I meant.
Well, you guys are going to be a construction zone here pretty quickly if the SB1 funds come through, and we'll finally get, quote me on this, a southbound on-ramp off of Cabrillo onto the freeway,
that would
which
be
is going
really helpful to
to
Coast
be
Village.
the biggest deal ever for Coast Village Road. I think the
I know
roundabout
you're
will help.
concerned about the business on Coast Village Road, so
Yeah. Well, you guys are
Half of
eating
them
the
are in Santa
lunches of
Barbara.
State Street right now, so.
Yeah.
No,
Jerry,
CVR is
I-
doing great. I'm happy for CVR because I feel it's vibrant, it's clean, it's happening. The bid down there, those guys are doing, I think, good things. So, now we're playing catch up with CVR in the downtown.
Well, and for those who don't know, CVR, the Coast Village Road is under the city government. So that's not altogether, an either or
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
situation.
Part of my
Jerry, I
speaking
just wanted to
reforms.
note on the homeless story that what Barbara Anderson did say was that rising rents are forcing people out of their units. And after COVID, there's less tenant assistance protections. United Way was helping people during the pandemic. And what was interesting was, according to what she said, there's an increase in people just living in cars. So that was interesting to me, that when we think of homeless and unhoused, it often is the people panhandling or the people sleeping on the street, which obviously, as Randy said, may be resistant to services, but it's also people we don't know who are just living in their cars and going to work or going to school. And so to me, that was the most interesting part of the discussion.
Hey, Mayor, Josh and I have been spending entirely too many hours of our lives listening to the candidates for council. talk, and the real polarizing issue, or the fundamental conflict maybe is over rent control. And if Proposition 33 passes, which would remove
Costa
state
Hawkins.
regulations restricting local rent control, all bets are off. What's your best guess about how that's going to go down?
Well, once again, I mean, we've been down that road how many
Henry.
times now? And was on the ballot one time years ago and lost resoundingly back then. Costa Hawkins has had some limits on local control. I got to tell you, local control is what we talked about with Assemblymember Hart and Monique Lamone's field representative in our last mayor's meeting, and every municipality, including unincorporated ones like Montecito, are dealing with these overarching remote government mandates that are coming up, and especially when it comes to land use. So we went back to when you talked about Lisa Plowman. I'm going to give her some grace only because you've got to keep a scorecard to find out what's coming down the pike every day. We actually do in the forms of having a consultant that gives us that information. But wow, so it's really hard. So this next thing, not only that, but there's some legislation barely proposed to try to take away the 72-hour abandoned vehicle law, so that somebody could just leave their car in front of your house and forever. And I went, with the idea of that's how we're going to address housing shortages. I mean, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is when our Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis was down here, I got to speak with her. Fascinating woman. I didn't know anything about her before. She was actually a developer with her father in Sacramento for 18
Yeah,
years.
Angelo Stokopoulos.
Yeah, and she understands the nuances of what it takes to build in the coastal zone and make something affordable, which she says is really, really hard. Now, she's not changing her politics around it, but at least she gets the math, and she understands why you just can't demand somebody build 25% affordable and say and they're going to be able to do it and pencil
Right.
out.
Well, yeah. All right. I promised we would talk about the wrong-headed proposal for a sales tax increase. Mayor, what's your you're out and about all the time. What's your sense? Is there any grumbling in the community about?
I'm glad the judge and the jury hasn't made any decision yet. Yeah, so this is an interesting one because I would rather have an invasive medical procedure without anesthesia than ask people for a sales tax. I got to tell you that. However, here's what we're facing. If you look at any municipality, we're up there. Actually, we're in pretty good shape financially, and our bond rating is almost as high as you can get in a municipality. We're up in the top tiers of bond ratings because of our fiscal discipline, because of our reserve policy and whatnot. But going forward, as our revenues are still increasing, we're not hurting yet, but the expenses are increasing slightly higher than that. Everybody's felt them. I mean, who hasn't had a problem with insurance for their home? Well, we have almost $1 billion in physical assets that we have to insure. So that's been a big deal. I mean, the pier itself went from a $500,000 deductible to a $3 million deductible in one jump. We have to cover all those things. Okay. You also have the salaries and benefits. And yes, 65% of everything we do is salaries and benefits because we're a service agency. Most of those services do not have a revenue component. So police, fire, library, those don't have a balancing revenue.
Parking.
Yeah, well, parking supposedly has a revenue component, but as those revenues are the tax base, taxpayers pay for all that stuff. And if that stays flat, well, those expenses are increasing at a greater rate than the volume of increased sales and TOT and whatnot. So it just makes sense that we need to do something. Now, you said, "Oh my God, why don't we cut expenses?" I think, or you said something along those lines, which we have. In the last 2 years, we've cut a total of 5% ongoing across the board, including PD and fire, which we don't normally touch. And then we're sitting there talking about after-school programs. We're talking about park and rec programs for seniors, the things that end up falling by the wayside as those things get cut. So the question is, what do we do? We have a transparency tool that anybody can get onto if they really want to sleep at night. And that's so you go on the website, it takes you right to not a real-time revenue and expense thing. But we've really trimmed the areas that we can in terms of what the budget's going to be. We're expecting about a $7.7 million deficit as of fiscal year 2024, the end of that. And because we're wrapping up those books right now. Now, we don't know that those change, incrementally day by day, but Keith's been pretty spot on with his predictions. And of course, we have the revenue increases that we need. What business is not having a struggling with recruitment and retention? Well, the city's the same way. So you can't say, well, just start cutting salaries. I mean, we actually got a real bargain in getting Kelly McAdoo. She took a big pay cut to come down here from Hayward. So I think she found out that the mayor was just so engaging that she had to.
No, I think it was actually the horses, but be that as it may. Hey, Gwyn, are you going to endorse Measure I? The wrong-headed sales tax increase?
I'm not gonna formally weigh in on
You're
that.
not going to jump in on that one? No?
Okay, Jerry, let me hear you define why you think it's wrong-headed. Go ahead. Because I'm having dinner up at the Taxpayers Association coming up in Buellton here pretty soon.
I'm sure they'll tell you. Josh, what do you think? You think this thing's going to pass based on what you hear at these various
He's
forums?
evading the question.
I don't
know.
They,
Some length, believe me.
they framed it as a savior of police and fire and public safety services and housing. So I think a lot of people will say that's a good idea. But I mean, I think people don't understand that this is going to go to pay for government employees to staff these positions. And so it'll probably pass because people see these as essential services and they don't look at the big picture. But then there's a lot of stuff on the ballot. There are a lot of increases.
Exactly right. There's so much
I don't
junk
know.
on the ballot.
That's true, but once again, yeah, is it true that 65% of our budget is salaries and benefits? The biggest one of the general fund budget, of course, is police. The second one is fire. Third one is parks and rec. The lion's share of salaries and benefits and pension obligations, however, are in the enterprise funds, and this won't affect the enterprise funds per se. I mean, this all, and we all have to pay these big PERS pension things, but the enterprise funds are responsible for generating all the funds necessary to run their department, including their PERS contributions.
All right.
So this is more of a rarefied thing. This is that $200 million general fund budget that, we're a $500 million budget in general. So,
And the big argument, of course, is they'll never again ask for another tax increase.
no, this caps it up. This takes us to the limit we can have in the county of Santa Barbara. And here's the thing that people also don't realize is, you see the county, they're asking for 2 points more on TOT. Everybody's looking for nickels under the cushions right now. And I don't care which agency you talk to. They're all looking for revenue measures because when inflation hit the way it did, everything we do, every project, every piece of equipment we buy is now 20, 30% more than it was before. I talked to a contractor buddy. I go, it's a terrible bidding atmosphere right now. He goes, you kidding me? It's a great bidding atmosphere because he can charge more for the same work that he did a year ago because they're really busy and it's what the market bears.
All right. Gwyn, I just want to ask you real quick. There's a situation in Montecito with the Miramar development. They want to put Rick Caruso, the developer, we alluded to it a little earlier, wants to put in a bunch of high-end retail. He's got about a small number of housing units proposed.
26, yeah.
How many?
26, I think.
26. So the county, in the person of Lisa Plowman, has now seized control of that project, and it appeared to be denying the Montecito Planning Commission a hearing on that. As a matter of governance, it doesn't seem like a swell idea. What's going on there? And Mayor, I just wanted to ask you to weigh in on that too, as a matter of governance, if you would.
Yeah, well, I don't know the ins and outs of that particular law that they're citing and whatnot.
Not that I want to interrupt the mayor, I would never do that. I have great respect, but I think we should start with Gwen so she can lay the
Oh, I
land.
thought the question was to me. I
Randy can
apologize.
analyze.
Okay, I defer. I defer to your ruling, Josh.
Yeah, my co-moderator.
Gwen,
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
well,
I
no, I
apologize.
thought the question was for Gwen. I
Go
apologize.
ahead.
I thought he called me into okay.
Listen, the less I say on this, the better I fare. So Randy, go ahead. Listen, it is true that last week the county unexpectedly declared that they have the right to formally decide this issue, whether or not Rick Caruso gets to expand by, I believe it's 54,000 square feet, the Miramar, and that would include luxury housing, more retail, and some affordable housing units for his employees. I think he's been very clear on that. The law exists. It's the state density bonus law that that does, I guess, in the fine print say that this can be when any of these developments are linked to affordable housing, the county gets to make the final determination.
Or when a longtime supervisor has been defeated for reelection and is going out of office soon. I think that's the other fine print that's.
Well, listen, it was bizarre and surprising that no one knew about this law until the sense was that the Montecito Planning Commission was dragging its feet on setting up the dates for the hearings, on having the hearings. And look, it's a complicated, the community is not all of one mind on this, although a lot of people in Montecito are very concerned about this. And that's just the truth. And Rick Caruso knows that. This would never have passed the first time around. He knows that too. This is a two-step dance that is taking place. And look, I just like to say this, and I know this is not your question, Jerry, but Montecito, I know people love to hate on Montecito. Montecito,
I mean, I invited you on the show.
yeah, Montecito. No, I'm kidding. Montecito has been through a lot. We've all been through a lot, but you know, the debris flow. We all have been through COVID, but in Montecito in particular, the turnover in this community following COVID has been huge. So a lot of culture shock from that. The 101 expansion, the roundabouts, the sound walls,
Megan and Harry. I mean,
exactly.
the
But
list.
anyway, and Randy, you raised the overarching remote mandates that are kind of overly broad, right? Like they don't necessarily take into account egress issues, safety issues, health issues, and community plans that have been in place for a long time.
Isn't that the fundamental issue, Mayor? I mean, it's just that the state has seized control of local land use planning. That's kind of
that's that you can say over and over and over again, and it's never enough. But
it's not working.
Yeah,
it's not working in achieving what they want it to achieve.
Right. Well, in this case, I mean, it might be the legal right for the Montecito Planning Commission, but whatever is legal and right doesn't mean it's a should as well.
The county planning commission.
Randy, county. But I mean, yeah, rather than try to second guess Lisa Plowman and company, I would just say, if it was me, I would rather see the Montecito Planning Commission at least be able to opine, have a hearing, take public input, at least a hearing.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
And use that, yeah, and because you're going to hear from those people one way or the other. And frankly, I would love to be able to preclude everybody showing up in the supervisor chambers when the county planning commission.
Well, and that's the other issue. I mean, Roy Lee is coming in. We know Roy Lee thinks differently than Das does. Das is trying to settle all the family business with this and cannabis and everything else before he gets out of there. And if that's what's behind this.
I think that this, in no uncertain terms, if this ends up before the Board of Supervisors, which I don't know that it will, if the county planning commission votes to support this, it's not going to go, I don't believe, to the Board of Supervisors. But if it's appealed to the Board of Supervisors, I think in no uncertain terms, Roy Lee should be in office to vote on this. He's going to have to be dealing with the fallout from this for years to come. And there's going to be a lot of it. And I say this not even knowing how Roy Lee would vote, but I think he needs to be at the table and he needs to be part of making sure that this works for this community because people are very upset about it. And
Well, I mean, that's why he got elected, because he's a grassroots guy. He's not a top-down, I'll decide what's best for you type person. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Josh, you got some political stuff you wanted to cover with the mayor?
Well, I just wanted to real quickly just point out what you just said. Caruso and his team was concerned that because the Montecito Planning Commission, they weren't able to meet, it wasn't going to get done by the time Doss left office. So Caruso sent Lisa Plowman this thing. Doss and Lisa are all for it because Doss is about to go off and work in the private sector as a consultant. And so a win on housing is just good for him before he leaves. And so they're absolutely trying to rush this so that if it's appealed to the board, he will be the decisive vote. And most people will probably just side because they side with the person in that district. And the idea is this is not good government. This is not the way. We should not be rushing policy to benefit one person, especially if that one person has been voted out of office. That is not good. This project's been going on a long time. It can wait.
And Josh, if I could add to that, voted out of office precisely because, at least in part, the Montecito community does not feel represented by him. They do not feel like he has their back. They feel like over and over decisions have been made that suit him personally, but don't benefit the community. I think Carpinteria would agree with that. And it is a problem. And so I understand that the Board of Supervisors traditionally likes to let the supervisor in that district lead the way on the issues that are concerning local areas. But I think in this case, they need to take into account, they must take into account that this community does not feel represented by Doss Williams. And that's why Roy Lee is now the supervisor. And
Randy,
I think
feel free to pile on here.
it's not
Oh,
a
boy.
pile on, and it's just that is just the facts.
This one I'm really happy to stay out of, trust me.
I mean, the truth is, though, Gwyn and we look like we're attacking Doss, but it's just because we don't have the journalism anymore to follow this locally. This is exactly the theme that got him voted out of office. This is why everyone is so upset. Now, Doss will say, I didn't drive this. Caruso did. I don't decide the state law. It is absolutely within the power of the Board of Supervisors to say, we want the MPC to decide this one thing. Randy Rowse.
Yeah, quick.
Everyone is saying not everyone. Some people in the community are saying Alejandra Gutierrez does not deserve to be reelected because she missed a whole bunch of meetings from 60 to 20 to however you count it. You've served with her. I don't know if you formally endorsed her. I know you support her reelection. Can you address that? How can you support her for another term when other people are saying she did not make the most of her first term?
Well, here's what I think. I mean, Alejandra had a slew of, I understand, personal medical issues, and none of which are my business. And I think that precluded a lot. She always let us know when she couldn't attend, and as much as she wanted to tell us what was happening with her. So that was her biggest fault. But in terms of her ability to work in that community, she grew up in that East Side community. And she knows the players. I've gone to her, we've gone to, there's like 3 separate groups of citizen groups and on Milpas in that area over there. We've gone to all of them. We've gone to the Franklin Center. When she's over there, people can relate to her. So, the absences were problematic. Everybody knows about them. They're all documented, and they're unfortunate. But as far as doing the work and doing the job, I have a lot of confidence in her. And I just, and the rent control thing, I mean, from my understand about from Wendy's point and the cause point, it's a one-note song, and that's all I've heard about. So if they've got other issues, that'd be one thing. But rent control is something I've been very vocal about opposing myself because it just has never worked anywhere.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, quick.
I'm sorry. I say what you were going to say, because I just need to say one more thing about the Miramar thing, because it is so important to this community. And I believe it's been given short shrift on this show.
All right.
I'm sorry,
You're
I'm
welcome.
I'm
Yeah.
speaking truth
That's
to
a-
power.
I
You're-
interrupted
you're-
you one time. I think
Well,
we're
I was just going to say if Prop 33 loses, and it is in fact a one note symphony here, that candidacy, you wonder what she's going to do there. Go ahead, Gwyn.
well, I
I-
mean, oh, sorry, Gwen, go ahead.
There he goes again. No, I just want to say that I think the context of this particular Miramar expansion project needs to be taken into account, which is that because of this law, in which you cannot separate out, apparently, the affordable housing piece from the retail piece, they're inextricably linked, I'm told. It received no environmental CEQA process. It did not have to go before MBAR for any formal approval. He did socialize it before MBAR, and as he did with the Montecito Association, but there was no formal weighing in at all. So the Montecito Planning Commission, which is a very capable group of people, is the only Montecito commission that gets to weigh in any formal way. And I just think that, again, to Doss Williams, if I'm Doss Williams, unless I have something personally to gain from this, you cannot believe that Montecito should not be able to formally weigh in on this, and that Roy Lee should not be the one to vote on this if you're applying an ethics lens to this decision.
All
Well,
right.
that's your problem, Gwyn.
Law aside.
Well said. Well said, Gwen. All right, Mayor Randy Rowse, thank you so much for your time. I want you to know I'm not at all bitter that you've gone off and joined another show, which has hijacked my idea. But that's just the way I roll. I'm very big-hearted about that kind of thing. We appreciate your thoughts on State Street and homelessness, and most of all, the sales tax. And we always appreciate you being here, Josh, Molina, and Gwyn Lurie. Thank you as well. And thank you all for watching. And we will see you next time on Newsmakers.
Thanks.